Hi folks, Tim, Grandad's workshop. Now then, it's fast approaching Christmas time. We're in the middle of November, and as everybody does, I've been having a good old mooch rather, cut. Take two. Hi everybody, Tim at Grandad's workshop. So here we are, we're in the middle of November, Christmas fast approaching. And like I'm sure most of you have been doing, I've been having a good old mooch around YouTube for some ideas, and I've seen quite a few of these spiral Christmas trees, and I thought I've got to have a go at that. But what I'm going to say right at the start is I'm not a professional, I'm not a carpenter, a joiner, I'm not any kind of tradesman, I'm just an enthusiastic hobbyist. And really the point behind me having a go at one of these trees is twofold. I fancy making one for my daughter-in-law who lives with my son Rue up in Scotland in a big farmhouse. So it's got some big old rooms in it, big ceilings, and I fancy having a bash at like a 7-foot tree. So that's one reason, and secondly I want to see if if you're an enthusiastic hobbyist. I've got a decent number of tools, power tools, but I just want to see if it's possible. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So that's out of the way. What we're going to start this journey with is I've been down to my local timber yard, and the best way for me to do it was I've picked up, it's a 12-foot length. It started out as a 12-foot length of 5.5 inches across. 5.5, it's 1.75 inches more or less in depth. So it started off as a 12-foot length. The lads at the yard hacked it down for me into more manageable pieces, i.e. 3-4-foot lengths, which are eventually going to end up as 2-foot lengths. So we're going to start off by ripping these 3 boards down. Because they are just over 5.5 wide, and we're ripping down to a 1/2 inch thickness. Have we got anything kicking about? I.e. there, we're going to, from these boards, we're going to cut them down so that that's what you're going to get. So as we rip them down on the table saw, we're going to get that kind of look. We're going to get as many out of each board as we can at 1/2 inch thick. So that should, when we've done all 3 boards, that should give us around about 48 a length when we've hacked them down to 2 foot long. So that's going to get us somewhere near halfway up the tree. So there should be plenty of offcuts by then, and we've got some more, and I can always rip some more lengths if we need to, but rather than cut too many, let's start off with the 3 4-foot lengths. Let's rip that down and then see where we're at in a few minutes. Okay folks, join me at the table saw. We're at the business end now. We're on the table saw. Just set it up for 1/2 inch cuts. Set the blade high so that it's just a couple of mil or so just above the actual board. We'll get the old breathing mask on. Specs, useless without one. There we go. I've not got a right lot of room, so So there we go, gang. So 23.5 inches. You don't need to be overly precise here, because we're going to be tapering the edges obviously towards the top of the tree. So, and I'm sure I'm going to do all these the same, but I'm sure if you calculate it out, you could probably save yourself a bit of timber, a little bit of timber, by working out the levels as you go along. But it's all cut now anyway, so 23.5. Just check that. What's that come out at? 46, 47. That's half in my world. So there we go. Don't really need to do that. It's just so I can see it. I'm hoping I can get 5 on my mitre saw. So let's spin you around and then you can see. Okay, get this mitre saw into operation. Put on my super duper There we go. So there's our 80 pieces for our tree. That's going to be obviously the longest one at the bottom, and as we build up to the 6 foot mark, it'll gradually decrease till we get to 6 foot. The old workmate, look, I got that when I was 21, so I've had that about 10 years. I wish. God knows, what, 40, 63, what's that, 42 years or something I've had that. I haven't got anything 6 foot long, so the best I've got is that's 2 foot wide, 3 foot long, it's a bit of plywood, it's nice and flat. And what I've done, I've drawn the dimensions onto this sheet of wrapping paper, which my granddaughter will probably go nuts at, because it was originally earmarked for her. She's 6, called Millie, and this has got all the favourites, Moana, and is that the mermaid or something? I don't know, I'll be honest with you, but anyway, the beauty of this bit of paper that just happened to appear, you probably won't be able to see it on there, but it's actually got lines going across sort of right angles to each other, so it was quite handy for marking stuff down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer. I'm going to have to do the pieces going across in two stages. I'm going to go up to halfway, and then we'll have to move it, rejig it all to get the top half of the buttons on. So that's what we're going to do. Now this is where the homemade 4-foot clamp comes into play. If you haven't had a look at that video, you might not be bothered about doing any welding or anything, but this is my creation. It's a bit of a Frankenstein, but it works, and I would have not been able to do much without this, so scoff at your peril. Yeah, little sort of four and a bit. I think it might have ended up. Last hole takes 2. Yeah, that's 4.5 foot you get out of that. So made out of all scrap that I had kicking around the garage. Complete non-welder. Welded a few bits and pieces. I'm quite happy with it. So what we need to do now is put this first side cut down. So if you haven't got, I mean, the ideal scenario would be a 6-foot clamp if you had room to lay it 6 foot out and clamp everything together, one cut on either side, and you'd be done. But obviously, 1, I haven't got the room. 2, I didn't have the materials to make a 6-foot one. Fancied having a go at making one, and that's what we ended up with. So if you haven't got one, I mean, I suppose you could at a pinch start using 2-foot ones, but then you're into even more sections. So anyway, you've got to do what you've got to do with the materials and tools you've got, haven't you? So that is not. We just want a straight edge now. Fairly bold. You can see what it is we're cutting. So now we've done that, the plan is to cut this side off, get on the drill press and drill all the holes out for the centre, but we'll come to that in a minute or two. Right, so is that going to move about? Probably not, but we don't really want it to move about, do we? So let's just cut it off. Clamp it down to the board. So basically went out and bought us a Work Pro. It's one of these kind of compact circular saws. Its cutting depth is just the depth of the lats that we're cutting through, so it's close. But I just fancied something a bit more manoeuvrable rather than the big clunky ones. I've never used one before, so wish me luck. We're down to the full depth now, so now is to get my centre line, which is on there. Just measure it, make sure we're around halfway, and then I just mark my line. Let's just move the clamp out of the way. Let's just move the clamp out of the way a minute. See if we can move it without actually moving the. Just leave that little single clamp on there for a minute. Shorter one, because at least it's got a stopper on it. Bring old Faithful into play, look. bothered about the line because we've got a whole lot of sanding in front of us here. So that is as near as I'm going to get it. That's the only really important thing at the moment, is that is square to the base. This is what we've got for our centre. This is one big heavy tree when it's finished, so you can use dowels, wooden dowels on the smaller ones I think, but on these puppies there's so much weight. So this is a piece of 20mm and it's just a touch under, so over to the drill press now. 20mm blade bit. Now then, I had a look round garage and I found this. It's not very pretty really, but it'll do the job. It's from an old job that I've done, obviously I can't remember what it was for now, but basically just a bit of plywood base, just a back to it, which as long as that's square to the base, we're on there, are we? But not quite. So it's just literally, as long as it's square to the base, just a chunk of wood there. I mounted on top of it one of them nice little drop down clamps. So all we need to do now is make sure we get this. I've drawn 2 lines. We've got the line down the centre and a line which is half the distance of one of the lats from the back that we're going to be pushing up against. We've measured half the distance, and that line there, that's where we're going to want the point of the blade bit. So we can offer that up now, bring that down into the centre where the 2 lines cross. That's going to be our centre. We then need to find some way of holding that in place, so fix down the little clamp at the back. So lift that up out of the way a minute. You won't be able to see that perhaps now, but let's just take it out a tiny bit. I just marked where these lines cross. Obviously that gives us the centre for the drill. We've already made sure it's half the distance away from the back, half the distance of the lat away from the back. I've marked a little bit of that line with a nice like bright orange, because I've found in the past when you're doing loads of these cuts and drilling holes, and after a while your mind wanders and you end up, you put your wood up against the back and just merrily start drilling, and then you realise you've not actually lined. It's rookie, but it happens. So that kind of helps me. I just see the bright orange every time and it reminds me to get my lines straightened up. So I think we can get 4 at a time onto this little jig. So it's so just make sure all the lines are lined up with each other and the bottom one is in line with the mark on the base of the jig, and then just clamp them in place. And that's your 20mm hole, which is where your centre pole or your conduit, your metal conduit, whatever you want to call it, will be going through. So that's 4 done, several dozen to go. Because we did one side using straight edges now, but so let's just use that as an example. So we marked this straight edge and took it to the height that we wanted, and a lot of people mark the other side and take it there, but I'm pretty sure, having marked one, drilled your holes and put your centre pole into position, now if we spin any of these round really, then it should work. So if we spin the end one round and then the top one, that one there, straight edge. That one now is going to be equidistant from the centre of the pole both ways now. So if we just mark our start line there, and then the same with this one. Draw a line between those marks. Spin them back round now. Just finish that line. And with this, spin this one round. And you can do a quick double check by going from the centre line to there. It is exactly 1 foot half an inch, so 24.5 inches, and that is exactly the same. So all these lines now, wherever you pick, should. So that's 8 3/4, 8 3/4. You just check the end one. So 1/16 of an inch under 5, 1/16 inch. So yeah. So when you set everything up, forget Moana. Get yourself a good square edge. Measure the centre of your 2 bits of wood. Do a straight line all the way down. I mean, as I say, I've only got this tiny little square, which is pretty rubbish, but if you've got a decent length square, get your centre line marked off, measure out to how wide you want the base, half the base, and then again, if you've got a decent length straight edge, you can go right from that bottom corner right up to the height you're after, 6 foot, 7 foot, whatever it is you're after, and then stop it, because obviously we're going to be cutting some of these off and they're going to go to the top of the tree. So yeah, basically just flick top and bottom and you'll end up with exactly the same amount on either side of the centre spindle, which is what you're after. So happy days. Right, let's get this in place. these pieces 1 to 33 are what we're hoping is going to fit around there. The moment of truth, the offcuts from this edge of the tree should now flip over and form the top of the tree. So let's see if we can do that. Looking reasonably good. So a nice straight edge now. One of these bad boys should do nicely. And what I intend to do before we cut this side is drill the holes like we did before, and then we can spin over and hopefully everything's tickety-boo. That should be the line for our hole. Just make sure that edge is stayed pretty straight. Yeah. So we drill all these out now. I don't know if we need to go that far, to be honest. I don't like them so small. And then once we've drilled them, flip them over, mark that side, cut that, and that should be our tree cut out. So let's get to the drill press. I'm not going to video that because you've already seen lots of drilling. Drill press. Okay, so we've drilled all the top branches, drilled and deburred, got it lined up there, so we know that's as close as we're going to get. So that's that bit done. We'll use the same technique as we did before with the bottom half of the tree. If we just spin, the bottom one here for me is 76, so I'll just spin that round. And the top one, which again for me is 107. See, already it's out slightly, because if you drill them out ever so slightly, then you can't get that back. But we're not too milliscule. So if we go from there to there. Wetter water. And then spin these back round. And then let's just get our little jiggity jig on here. Right on the border. That's enough to work with, I think, that one. I have to just do like that. More secure, but Okay, so we've got all our branches onto the centre stem, or the trunk, shall we call it. So I want to have about a 12-inch tree trunk showing, and then we've got roughly 6-inch for the actual base. I did want the stem at the bottom of the tree to be 12-inch. It might still be, but what I've got is a little chunky monkey here. This has been in the garage for a few years now. Now it's only 11 and we've got strange angles at both ends. So I think what we'd get out of that is 10, maybe 10.5 inch. So, and then we're going to try drilling a hole all the way through it. It may work, it may not. But anyway, while I've got my little saw set up, one of the edges is pretty reasonable. Obviously it is a tree branch, so they're not going to be perfect, but that one's pretty damn good, isn't it? Look at that baby there. So just make a little mark on there. Not as strong as I used to be. A little mark there. That would tell me that that edge is pretty straight. So you can either sit on that edge, or that can go against the back. And then we need an arch, obviously not going to do it, is it? It's thicky. So, there isn't really another one. So, we can either have that flattish edge against the bottom, or that can go against the top, and we'll have to lift it up. I think what we might be doing is getting that cut first, and then we'll worry about propping the rest of it up to do the second cut. Let's have a little go at that. I'll just slurp my tea because it's freezing. I think it's something like -3 today as well. In sunny Blackpool in the UK. So if that's flat, it should give me do we want to go flat to the table? That's fairly stable, that. Flat to the table. Yeah, we'll cut that. Right, let's try that. I'm going to use my flattest edge on the table. And I'll just have to get what I can. Like that. Bend stops about there. No, let's make as much as we can. We can always take more off. So let's go like this. Put my dust inhaler. Look at that belly lights then. We're still sat on what I would say is the flattest side. Do they have sides branches? If that's in the cutting range. Obviously not. I'm just trying to square that first edge that we've just cut up with the back fence. See if we can that's the trouble. So it could be a case of handheld here, which is a bit treacherous considering it's a log. Again, while we're doing this, just remember I'm just the enthusiastic hobbyist. I'm not a skilled joiner, carpenter, tradesman of any kind, so when it comes down to safety features, read your booklets on your machines, look online, there's some brilliant craftsmen out there who actually guide you through all the safety features, so always take your time, have a look, make sure everything's right before you set about using any of these big power tools. Right. Everybody's due a bit of good luck sometimes, so that's the edge we used as our straight edge, which you can even see by the naked eye is pretty good for a log. And then we've cut it off on our pull down saw as best we can, and that's pretty good, that really, isn't it? There is a bit of gap between the edge of the square and the log, but it's because it's got a knobbly texture. So if we do the other end, again, that is pretty close enough for me anyway, that's for sure. So that's it for that for now. We'll come back to that because the next stage of that one is drilling a hole. Right, anybody ever wondered if you can use a masonry drill bit drill through a 12-inch long log? Yeah, thing is I wanted a 20mm and I've got an 18 or a 22, so you know, so we just want a rough idea where the centre is. It's not round anyway, but so, shame there's a hole in either side, but anyway, we haven't got a handlebar or anything like that, so We're about halfway through our journey here. I don't think it's enjoying it a great deal, but sometimes you've got to do what you've got to do, haven't you? Right on cue, the battery's going, isn't it? Right, don't think you. Not too shabby. They're too small, but at least we're through one, so I think we're just going to have to have a look at the 22mm now, which is a shame, but it might bounce about a bit more than it did. So that was the 18mm. Let's see how the 22mm does. Not white fire in that. Well, folks, it's quite a soft wood actually, to be fair, but there we go. Entry and exit. So, as I say, it's just a little bit unfortunate that we've had to go. That's actually not a bad fit. So, in fact, I just need to clean it up because it's not. There it goes, look. There she goes. So, to say that's a 20mm pipe and it's a 22mm hole, it's quite a snug fit, that. So that is going to be our tree trunk. Just a little bit of finishing off. There you go. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So that's our chunky monkey, which is not in very good nick, to be fair, as I've looked at it, but that's not too bad, not too bad. So let's get this divided up. Let's just a tickle over 47, so that would make that 23 and 23 is 46, I think I'm right. So 23 and a half. 23 and a half. and I'll get 2 equal lengths when we've made that cut. Really close. Now then, unfortunately, a little snag with my master plan to make the double slot cut, one in this piece, one in the other, to slot inside each other, because to get to that depth we need to be able to cut 2 7/8. Now with my sled on the table, you can better see this, but you can essentially get to about just over 2, maybe 2 1/8, something like that. So it ain't going to cut deep enough. So there's a couple of options. I could reduce the depth of the wood, but I do want to keep the maximum amount of wood on there because I want as much weight at the bottom of this big tree as I can. So we need a plan B, and it's not, unfortunately, going to go on this bandsaw because we haven't got the distance between the blade and the back of the table itself, so that's not going to cut the mustard. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our handheld jigsaw, I think. Just hope that we can get a straight enough cut. It's either that or a handheld saw. I think I'll go for the jigsaw. So wish me luck. Well, we want them tight, but that's too tight. But we have got to sand down the front, and it could be the difference. So that's what we've got at the moment. That's what we've got. 2 slots. So they're just a tiny bit tight at the moment. So we'll sand down. We won't sand down at all, that's a lie. What we're going to do is a bit of light on for a start off. A bit dark, it's a proper good frosty day today in sunny Blackpool. So, just how we like it. So let's see if we can cut out our little curvy shapes. For the price of one. So just turn it off a minute, we'll get set up for a bit of sanding and see how we go from there. Right gang, base is almost finished. What we've got now is the 20mm hole to drill for the actual stem of the tree. We need this to be as near bang on straight upright as we can, because obviously with all the weight, if it's slightly off to start with, the weight's going to take it further. So we've marked the centre of our 2 pieces. What I'm going to do, I don't know if this is it's too deep for my pillar drill, the bench drill there, so I'm going to have to use my handheld drill, and I'm going with a 20mm spade bit. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if this will get in the way, be a hindrance or a help, but I'm going to just clamp this into place to try and give me a visual guide as to how straight we are. Right, sat flat on the plyboard bench top, and it's up against the side there, so that is as near as 90 degrees as we're going to get as a guide. So will we slide past? I think we will, just so I can just, or I'm hoping I can just keep a bit of an eye on there and there, just to keep the two parallel. It's not easy when you're trying to drill it for a start off, but anyway, I'm going to move because that's too high, so I'm going to drop down onto my workmate. Just might be a bit easier. Okay kids, wish me luck. Right, what I'm going to do is we'll get our pointer on the crosshairs. Now, if I keep my eye on this parallel, you can probably see whether we're parallel there. So if I start to wander, give me a shout, will you? That would be a big help. So here we go, let's see how we go on with this. With our little log with the stem. Wow, I like that. There we go. Do like that, that's what it is, isn't it? Cheers. So hopefully this is where the magic happens and we can see the tree actually grow into a full spiral. So that's a bit of magic, and every magician needs a glamorous assistant. And I've brought along Jan. So Jan is going to help me assemble the tree. Stand by. Okay gang, so as you'd imagine we start with our two-piece base. Nice sturdy base. Get the two pieces together. And our 20mm metal conduit hole. Just worth lifting it up, make sure it goes through the top one, into the bottom one. That's your pole. Then we start with our sections. I call them the branches. So, no, we don't start with the branches.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. My assistant is not on form.
I was watching
So
the dog.
I apologise. I made this. I've never seen one of these done before. There could well be one out there, but as you saw in the video when we were building it. It's just a piece of branch, the hole drilled through it, and that is going to be the trunk of our tree.
So lovely with a little squirrel coming
I
out.
just need to have a little creature coming out of a little knot hole. Right, so when we start, it's worth numbering these pieces because it will drive you nuts if you don't. Next year when you come to put them in, if they're all mixed up, you'll be thinking, number them. Voila! Abracadabra. There you go, folks. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this little journey. I hope you've enjoyed it. Big thanks and a happy new year and season's greetings to everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell because there'll be some good stuff coming your way next year. Till then.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas everybody.